Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 2, the cow, from verses 89 all the way to 93. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the Merciful, the Gracious. وَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ كِتَابٌ مِّنْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ مُصَدِّقٌ لِمَا مَعَهُمْ وَكَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ يَسْتَفْتِحُونَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ مَا عَرِفُوا كَفَرُوا بِهِ فَلَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. And when a book from God came to them confirming what was with them, although they used to seek for victory before over those who disbelieved, but when there came to them what they recognized, they disbelieved in it. So the curse of God is upon the disbelievers. بئس ما اشتروا به أنفسهم أن يكفروا بما أنزل الله بغيا إن ينزل الله من فضله على من يشاء من عباده فباءوا بغضب على غضب وللكافرين عذاب مهين. Wretched is what they traded their souls for, in order to disbelieve out of injustice in what God has sent down, that God would send down to whomever He wills among His servants from His favor. So they incurred wrath upon wrath, and the disbelievers will have a humiliating punishment. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا نُؤْمِنُ بِمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْنَا وَيَكْفُرُونَ بِمَا وَرَاءَهُ وَهُوَ الْحَقُّ مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا مَعَهُمْ قُلْ فَلِمَا تَقْتُلُونَ أَنْبِيَاءَ اللَّهِ مِنْ قَبْلُ إِن كُنْتُمْ مُؤْمِنِينَ. And when it is said to them, believe in what God has sent down, they say, we believe in what was revealed to us, and they disbelieve in what is beyond it, while it is the truth confirming what is with them. Say, then why did you kill the prophets of God before if you were believers? وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ مُوسَى بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ ثُمَّ اتَّخَذْتُمُ الْعِجْلَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ وَأَنْتُمْ ظَالِمُونَ. And certainly Moses brought proofs, yet you took the calf afterwards and you were transgressors. وَإِذَا أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورَ خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ وَاسْمَعُوا قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَعَصَيْنَا وَاشْرُبُوا فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْعِجْلَ بِكُفْرِهِمْ قُلْ بِئْسَ مَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِهِ إِيمَانُكُمْ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. And when we took your covenant and raised the mountain above you, take what we have given you with strength and listen. They said, we hear, but we disobey. And they implanted their calf into their hearts with their disbelief. Say, how bad is what your faith suggests you if you should be believers. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. The God, the Great, said the truth. Now, the cool part when you're reading the Quran, sometimes as you are analyzing it and pondering, you get a question that comes up to into your mind. And then you realize that that question is quickly answered in the next few pages or the next few verses. I had a question asked to me on the episode that we recorded yesterday. I have a question. A portion of Quranic verses were revealed in and for specific situations, right? So how can we know which verses are universal and which one are contextual, either for specific people, time, or circumstances? Now, this is an excellent question. And subhanAllah, like exalted as God, this is a very good example on one of the verses where it is contextual. But why is it contextual? Why is God referring back to contextual verses that are specific to a group of people and almost to a group of, this is also specific to a time? Because yes, there are verses that applies to humanity all throughout the whole time, but there are verses where we could still ponder upon them and see within the example for the future. So trying to understand which one are contextual or which one apply to everybody, this is almost a difficult question to answer, because some stuff that are going to be applied to you and it is contextual to you. For example, if you are a mother or if you are a person who is fighting in war, certain verses will apply to you. And those verses to somebody else will be an example for a similar situation or a similar event where they could learn from that verse, ponder upon it, and then apply a certain, either a remedy or an action, or come up with a plan to overcome whatever they're experiencing, whether internally or externally. So this was an excellent question. And this verse here, it's talking about specifically to the children of Israel, right, who were living in the time, during the time of the prophet. So one thing that we can learn from this verse, well, they used to they were kind of oppressed by the polytheists that are around, from what it sounds like. Okay, and they used to always look for a way to get victory over, or the upper hand above them, and this would be specifically either people who are applying the Torah and some of the Christians along the time. But this sounds like more of the people who are adhering to the laws of the Torah. So when they always felt like God is going to give them the victory over these polytheists, and when God sent them a way to defeat the polytheists, which is this clear Quran, this clear book, they didn't like it. So they've been begging God, and they've been asking God, like, help us against these polytheists. God, help us against these oppressors. Please help us, God. We're being put down. We're being pushed aside. We're being killed. Please send us some support. But when God sends the support, they disbelieve in it, because it isn't based on what they were either expecting or what they were told to be expecting, because they were following assumptions and lies. So yes, despite this being based upon the time around the time of the Prophet, what we can learn is those that are living around us today that claim that they believe in the Quran. Yes, there is no book after the Quran. So God is saying, وَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ كِتَابٌ, when a book came to them from God, confirming was what was with them, the people who are considered Muslims or call themselves Muslims nowadays, there isn't going to be a book to confirm the Quran, because the Quran is the last book that we're going to receive from God, since there is no more prophet. But if a person comes to you confirming to what is in the Quran, but telling you, hey guys, you're doing wrong, and this is why you're losing. This is why you've been losing for the last 100 years. This is why you've been losing for the last 120 years, because you're doing so and so and so wrong. You're doing these points incorrect. And you are always looking towards God for victory against your oppressors. But when somebody comes to you, not confirming the other fairy tales and the other lies and assumptions that you came up with, but confirming your Quran and saying this is what you need to do, a lot of people disbelieve and push him to the side. It's because they are not happy with what God sent. And God is asking them at this point, who are you to dictate what God is sending upon his servants and what he isn't sending? And because you are adhering to your assumptions and what you are expecting God to do for you, and rejecting whatever God has proven to you as truth, then you're going to incur damnation, a curse, wrath, and anger, because you're claiming yourself as a person of victory. You're drowning in the sea. You're asking God to help you, to send you a boat, and you've been expecting a boat for the last half an hour, but miraculously, instead of a boat, you get a helicopter, and you're saying, well, this is not what I expected. I expected a boat. So I'm not going to grab onto the rope that the helicopter is sending me by, or sending to me, or whatever the helicopter is dropping as help, because I'm expecting a boat. Well, then go drown, because the help came to you and you refused it. So there's a lot of situations that are happening in the Middle East, the hotbed where of those people who believe in this Arabic Quran. But when people are presented to them and telling them that this is what you guys are doing as wrong as per the Quran, they say, well, this is what our fathers are told us, and this is what our priests and sheikhs and imams have been telling us. So we're just going to follow that. But God, please help us get victory over those oppressors, over these disbelievers. Well, at that point, you might be fitting the example of what God has explained here in the Quran, right? And God goes as far as saying, wretched is what they bought themselves into. You are now adhering to your cult. Now you are adhering to a mentality, an idea that is detached from what God has prescribed to you, which is very clear in a clear book. So when you do that, how much of an evil person that you are, that you could recognize the verses of God that are being told to you and expressed to you in a different interpretation, yet the interpretation is sound. It's a sound and concise truth that is coming to you, and you're saying, no, I rather go by what I was told and what my cult is expecting. Well, at that point, who are you to dictate to what God needs to do? And why are you denying that there's other believers in God that do not adhere to your mentality or your worldview? God can present to you a believer in all sorts of forms and shapes where they are submissive to God, and this is how God taught them on how to be submitters to God. God, if he wanted everybody to be a carbon copy of a certain person, then there wouldn't be multiple languages. There wouldn't be multiple cultures. There wouldn't be multiple sciences and events happening in the world. Everyone would have been an Arabian. Everybody would be speaking Arabic. and then everybody would be expected to live like it's 1400 years ago Arabia. But that is not what God has been expecting from you, nor is he dictating that to the whole world. There's different forms of submission to God, but the religion is one. You submit. When the truth is presented to you, you have to believe it, despite it not aligning to what you used to know. When you understand it and you digest it and it makes sense to you, that is now what the truth is, because you were on falsehood prior. Now, God is telling as well, when people are presented, and this should be taken to the Jews and the Christians, and yes, there's a lot of debates. It seems like a lot of people read the Bible, the older book, to find ways to debate with Jews and Christians rather than understanding some of the truth that is aligning with the Quran. The things that confirm. They have no problem going with other subsources that are outside of the Quran to take that as a form of guidance. But yet when God is saying that these are books that he sent prior, they have a problem learning from them, which is something that is very confusing to me. So if you are setting up a standard to see what is a lie and what is truth based on what the Quran is saying, you could apply that standard to the Old Testament and the New Testament. Yes, there are some things that you could clearly put off to the side, but there's concepts where Moses and Jesus and the other prophets are explaining it in David to the people where you can learn off it, and you just have to have that intellect and the mindset to filter the falsehood and stay with the truth. Because the truth is in the Quran, and the Quran is superseding the other book. It doesn't mean that the whole book, you just put it to the side and you just use it to debate other people. But how am I going to present the truth to the people of the book if I don't know the truth that's in their book? So I have to look at things where they do align with the Quran, and this is for the people who want to call up or talk to the children of Israel or the people of the book and invite them to a clearer truth. Okay, does not necessitate to that they're evil or they're twisted or they're all going to hell or they're all mushriks. Some of them are believers. Those people, you hope for God to forgive those individual issues that they have, right? So when you present to them to the truth, you expect a reaction for them to believe. Yes, that is for the children of Israel, but that is also for the people who came after them. So when you present to them a truth that is not coinciding to what they're saying, which is a falsehood, but it is also based upon the truth that they have, you expect that people to believe, right? But the children of Israel went as far as killing prophets that are from God, that came the truth to them, right? So you should expect the humanity, the majority of the humans, to not accept what you're saying. And that's something that it shouldn't hurt you when you're calling people to God and you're trying to inspire them to do good for themselves and for the world. The majority of the people will maybe listen to you, be polite, and then let you go. And then the other ones are just going to tell you to be quiet. You don't have the authority. You don't have any of the standards that they're looking for you to help people find God. When God is very clear to a child, can understand that God is around. But we are here to remind people, right? So when you're reminding people, when they're coming back at you, and this is when you can start being wise in the way that you're saying. It's like, okay, God is telling you guys to not do this in your mosques, or God is telling you to not do this. Well, who are you? And they get at you and they saying, well, God is not going to send any help, or this is not the form of any help. And who do you think you are? Well, why are you guys eating each other's inheritance if you were honest and believers? Why are you accepting a central bank that takes interest? So you could hit them with the same examples that Prophet Muhammad was hitting the Jews and the Christians or the children of Israel. And why are you killing the prophets of God? This is something that is clearly blasphemy. And you're claiming that you're believers. You're saying that you believe in this book. I'm coming with more evidence that God exists, and he's trying to help. He's not trying to help you. He sent more help, but you're disbelieving in it. Why you're disbelieving in it? Because you're going as far as killing anything that comes to you that resembles the same truth that is telling you to be better for yourself. So for you as an individual, do not close yourself off. The truth can come to you from anywhere. The ordering of helping somebody can come to you from any source. And just because it's an enemy faction at one point, it is very simple. Let's just assume that there is a Mehdi and and the whole story that we might have heard as younger people or those that understand certain sects in Islam that there's a Mahdi coming. Why is it difficult for God to raise the Mahdi in America? Why does it necessitate for him to be an Arab with the names that you have claimed? What if it's a person that doesn't care about any of the schools of thought that the people came up with, nor does he care about any other books other than the Quran? And God has revealed to him the Quran in a way so he understood the truth from falsehood, similar to how the people around the Prophet, peace be upon him, understood it. And he raises him in America. And then you guys were looking for the help, and here comes the help, and you don't accept him. What if he raises him in China? And yet you could trace him back to the same seed because the seed went all over the world. Why are you dictating what God needs to do? People don't know the unseen. So you have to keep your mind open that the help can come to you from anywhere. And that is something that is very amazing because they always try to limit God into a box, and that this is exactly how God needs to work for it to be true, right? And when the truth and the faith comes in a way that they don't expect it, they're quickly to disbelieve in it rather than to try to break themselves. And every time you should always reflect upon yourself and seeing what are the downfalls and the things that are making you either worried or making you hurt or maybe doubting why things are occurring, and trying to fix them with the verses of God. And the help can come to you from anywhere. Now God carries on with the verses. And again, he's addressing the children of Israel. Like, you had clear proofs. We put a mountain on top of you. Okay. We brought a man back to life. We split the sea. We gave you 8 more signs in front of Pharaoh. We removed Pharaoh. We did all of this. And then you went as well and you blasphemed, right? And you started to worship a calf, because this is what the majority of the world wants to do. They just want to indulge in their desires and their feelings, and whatever thought comes to them, they will try to decorate it in a way that it's positive, and they try to go with it, despite there is like clear verses what they're doing is wrong, right? But then as soon as you tell somebody that they're wrong, what happens? I'm not wrong. How dare you say that I'm wrong? I know what I'm talking about. I'm a religious person. I'm a pious person. And this is what's happening here. It's like they drank in their heart that calf. Like, hey, it was something that was nice. It was easier for us to worship if there's a calf. What do you mean, like these other books I can't read? Well, how am I going to learn? Because they drank it in their heart that it's guidance. Despite it being crazy, all these other books that's outside of the 4 books that God has mentioned in the Quran, the books that came from God. It's a very unhealthy mindset to close yourself off from any form of guidance that can come from anywhere. Now, for us, on the other hand, we have an amazing book, right? That is telling us on what to do and what not to do, right? So when we're applying these verses, we have to be truthful to ourselves. So when we're saying to God, we hear and we obey, sometimes you are presented with an idea, or you are presented with an opportunity where you understand that you could clearly see where there is a confusion or a trial for you based on what you know from what God has revealed to you. Those things are kind of like the stepping stones for you to either we hear and we obey, and you'll take that little heartbreak that you can't do it now, but you understand why you can't do it, or we heard and we disobeyed. Why? Because, yeah, I know it's bad. I I understand it, and then boom, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Remember, sometimes like actions are speaking louder than words, right? So if I block you, and I say we were talking, and then I block you, and you can no longer send messages to me, and there's no form of communication, you know exactly what I'm saying. I don't want to talk to you, nor do I want to be around you, nor I don't want you to even communicate with me. So I didn't need to say anything for me to communicate to you. And God is also, I feel that God is revealing this in this verse where they might say, yeah, we hear and obey, but their action is showing disobeying. So if you're going to put them on a scale and watch a movie about them, what are they doing? Well, what are they saying with how they're acting? Well, hypocrisy. They're lying, right? So if you really do believe in God, when the verses are clear for you in your head, in an opportunity or a situation, or maybe in a fight with somebody, hear and obey. because that's what's going to get you across. That's something that I personally struggle with, and I believe a lot of people struggle with, because sometimes you don't want to hurt the person in front of you, or sometimes the situation is a little weird that you don't want the other person to feel shame, but then at that point, who are you giving victory to? Is it that person's feeling, or is it that situation you don't want to look bad, or are you going to give the victory to God? Because God is not here to make you feel bad, and God is not here to make you feel ashamed. But you realize if you give the victory to anything else just to save yourself some pain or some emotions, it's actually going to cause you more pain. And the person in front of you is not going to care, because they might care in that moment, but within a few short periods of time, you're going to either realize that that person maybe doesn't have a good heart, or that they forgot about the situation that happened between you and them. So give the victory to God. Don't be like the evil side of the children of Israel, where they just do whatever they want. And no matter how many miracles they see and how many miracles they hear, they're thinking God is going to work as they want God to work. And the victory can come to you from anywhere. But the bad children of Israel, they think they're the victorious ones no matter what. So with that said, God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace and blessings upon you from God.